I'd like to begin with a story about an old friend of my wife's. They knew each other in the town where they both grew up, in Portland, Oregon. Mary's friend, Art Honeyman, born with cerebral palsy, was confined to a wheelchair. One morning in 1972, Art and his buddy Richard Pimentel, who was a disabled Vietnam vet, went to a restaurant for a pancake breakfast. Upon seeing the two diners, the waitress refused to serve them and threatened to call the police if they didn't leave. They didn't leave and were arrested under what was called the Ugly Laws. The Ugly Laws have been on the books from the 1860s through the 1970s. It was illegal for persons with unsightly disabilities to be in public, punishable by a jail sentence and fine. This act of unthinkable unfairness led Richard and Art to become protesters in their quest for better treatment for persons with disabilities. Their protest work led to the passing of the American with Disabilities Act of 1990. In 2007, the film Music Within, which was about the movement to pass the ADA, profiled Art Honeyman and Richard Pimentel, as played by Ron Livingston and Michael Sheehan. Art died in 2008 at the age of 68. Protest might be understood as a visceral response to injustice. At one time, Art shuffled his wheelchair along the freeway from Portland to the state capitol in Salem to protest the lack of disabled access on buses. Art Honeyman wrote a children's book, Sam and His Cart, based on his own childhood experiences. It was made into a film. In 1971, he published a poem, You're Damn Right We Will. You're damn right we will. We'll show them anyhow. You're damn right we will. We'll roll down the street. We'll hobble. We'll crawl. We'll struggle blindly with dog or cane. We'll shake. We'll drool. We'll be a disgusting spectacle. We'll show them our heritage and our lack of heritage. We'll show them they can't ignore our screams of cripple power. We want more. We'll break down the walls to boxes that they've stuck us in for years and placated us with paternalistic help. We'll show them how realistic we can be by living our fantasies. We'll show them in living color what it means to drool while you laugh, to grope while you walk, to roll over a curb and have 1,000 people look away from you. We'll show them with love that Jesus Christ only suffered a little while on a cross, with thorns in his crown and nails in his bloody hands, but not for years at a time, not without hope. Why protest? Because when you're handicapped in life, handicapped by disabilities, handicapped by skin color, handicapped by sexual orientation, handicapped as the wrong gender, the wrong nationality, the wrong look. Dignity makes you strike back to balance the scales of justice. Dignity and anger. Jonathan Ryder, a sociologist from Barnard College, recently published a piece about how all along we have misinterpreted Dr. Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail. We prefer to and continue to associate Dr. King with the warm fuzzies of the I Have a Dream speech and is taking inspiration from the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. But King's letter from Birmingham jail offers a real portal for us to look into his motivation to protest. It was his antipathy towards his white contemporaries, especially the 8 white moderate clergymen who criticized Dr. King's 1963 struggle to desegregate Birmingham, Alabama. They criticized his acts as untimely. The white clergy labeled King as extreme. It was black anger that drove King to write from jail. His lines, "For years now I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. Wait has always, always meant never." The Kennedy administration urged King to postpone the protests, but King was defiant. In a mass meeting just days after getting out of jail, he depicted blacks as alone in an indifferent nation. He proclaimed to his audience, "Don't you ever think that anything is going to be given to us in this struggle. Don't you think anything is ever going to be given to us in this struggle?" On another occasion, King, who thought that white people were virtually incapable of empathizing with black plight, said, "I should have realized that few members of the oppressor race can understand the deep groans or passionate yearnings of the oppressed race." Why protest? Because nothing is ever going to be given to you. Nothing is ever going to be given to the oppressed. And that's the way it's always been. Too much money and power goes into maintaining the status quo. And take a look at the money that went into California's Proposition 8 in an attempt to keep an oppressed group from ever attaining the rights afforded to those in the mainstream. Take a look at the power that goes into immigration enforcement in an effort to intimidate immigrants from ever expecting that something like a job will ever be given to them. Protest means refusing to be intimidated by one's oppressor. Let's return to the Vietnam era for a moment. Take a look at Portland's famous Rose Festival. Portland is known as the City of Roses. And part of the festivity includes the appearance of the U.S. Navy sailing their mighty ships from the Pacific Ocean into the Columbia River and then turning up the Willamette. In protest against our military actions in Southeast Asia, Oregon State legislator Wally Priestley floated downstream on the Willamette in an inflated inner tube. If you can just imagine this, he's floating down on an inner tube, up comes the Navy, and he's there to confront the U.S. Navy. What a sight to behold. This little guy in an inner tube, these mighty ships. What a mockery of power. I think anyone who's ever protested must surely, at some time, must have felt like Wally. Because we protest against such great odds. Good heavens, we might as well be floating in an inner tube down the Willamette trying to stop the U.S. Navy. Part of us think we can't ever really succeed. But we're there doing it because we refuse to wait. And it's time, now, to recalibrate the scales of justice. Nothing is ever going to be given to the oppressed.